You're in an argument, and you're right. You know you're right. You have the facts. You have the logic. You have the truth on your side. This should be simple. You should be able to say what needs to be said, calmly, clearly, firmly. But something's happening that you didn't ask for. Your throat is tightening. Your vision is blurring. And you feel it rising, that hot pressure behind your eyes that you absolutely know is about to betray you. And you think, no, not now, not when I'm right, not when I finally have the words, not when I need to be strong. But it doesn't matter what you think, because your voice cracks, your eyes flood, and the tears come, not sad tears, not weak tears, furious tears, frustrated tears, tears that have nothing to do with sadness and everything to do with the fact that your body has decided against your explicit wishes to express what you're feeling in the one way that will make you look weak. The person you're arguing with sees it. Their expression changes. They see weakness. They might even say it. Why are you crying? I'm not trying to hurt you. It's not that serious. And that makes it worse. Because now you're not just crying. You're humiliated by your own reaction. You're furious at your body for doing this. And the tears come harder because you're frustrated about crying, which makes you cry more, which makes you more frustrated. You wanted to be strong. You wanted to be clear. You wanted to stand your ground and say the truth without your body turning you into a child having a tantrum. But here you are, crying, again, for what feels like no reason except that your emotions refuse to stay inside where they belong. And I need to tell you something about this, something that might change how you see what's happening to you. You're not crying because you're weak. You're not crying because you're too emotional. You're not even crying because you're sad. You're crying because you've hit a limit that most people never hit. A threshold of feeling that most people avoid their entire lives. And your body is doing the only thing it knows how to do when you exceed that threshold. It's trying to save you. What I'm going to show you is that your tears aren't a malfunction. They're not your body betraying you. They're your body's emergency response to a philosophical problem that humans have been trying to solve for thousands of years. A problem about what happens when what you feel becomes bigger than what you can say, when truth exceeds language, when emotion overwhelms the container. Your tears are what happens when you step into a river that most people refuse to enter. And understanding that river, understanding why you're in it while others stay safely on shore, that's what we're going to explore. Let me take you back to ancient Greece. There's a philosopher named Heraclitus walking along a river, and Heraclitus says something that everyone quotes, but almost nobody understands. He says, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." Most people hear this as a statement about change, right? About impermanence. The water is always flowing. The river you stepped in a moment ago is gone. The man who stepped is also changing. Everything is flux. Nothing stays the same. And yeah, that's part of what Heraclitus meant. But there's another way to read this. A way that explains why you're crying during arguments while the other person stays calm. When most people step in a river, they experience water. They register temperature, wet, cold or warm, moving. That's it. They've had the experience. They know what a river is. Done. They can step back out. But some people, when they step in a river, they experience something completely different. They feel the current. Not just that it's moving, but how it's moving. The pull against their legs, the resistance, The power of water that looks calm, but is actually exerting constant force. They feel the temperature, yeah, but also how it changes. How the cold seeps deeper. How their body tries to adjust. How adjustment has limits. They feel the rocks shifting under their feet. The particular smoothness of stones worn down by centuries of water. They feel time in those stones. Patience, endless repetition. They hear the specific sound of this river, this moment, this configuration of water over rock that will never exist again. They smell earth and mineral and something alive. They see light breaking on the surface in patterns that form and dissolve. And they know, they feel in their body that this moment is singular, unrepeatable, already disappearing even as they're in it. That's not the same experience as feeling water. The person who feels water steps out of the river and says, "That was cold." The person who feels everything steps out shaking, overwhelmed, changed. Heraclitus is saying, we're not experiencing the same river. You're experiencing water. I'm experiencing infinity. And infinity is too much. It always is. It exceeds what a human nervous system can process without some kind of release. So here's what this has to do with you crying during arguments. When you're in that argument, when you know you're right and you're trying to express it, you're not just processing the current disagreement. You're processing everything. You're processing the injustice of not being heard, the pattern of not being believed. Every time in your life someone dismissed you when you were telling the truth. Every moment of being gaslit or told you're too sensitive or that you're overreacting. It's all there, all at once. You're processing the relationship. What it means if this person doesn't believe you. What it means if they think you're lying or wrong or confused. The betrayal of that. The loneliness. You're processing your own integrity, the fact that you know what's true and you're being forced to defend it, the degradation of having to prove something you know is real, the exhaustion of that. You're processing the future. What happens if you can't make them understand? What it means for this relationship, for your sense of being seen, for your ability to trust that truth matters. All of this, simultaneously, in the seconds it takes them to say, "I think you're wrong." You're not experiencing an argument. You're experiencing a river, multiple currents, past, present, future, self, other, relationship, truth, perception, trust, all flowing at once, all exerting pressure. And your body, your nervous system, it's not built to contain that much. Nobody's is. So it does what rivers do when they exceed their banks. It floods. The tears aren't the emotion. The tears are the overflow, the excess. The proof that you're processing more reality, more truth, more complexity than your system can hold without release. And here's what's cruel about this. The person you're arguing with, they're not in the river. They're standing on the shore. They're processing one thing. The current disagreement. Are you right or are they right? That's it. One channel. Manageable. Containable. So when you start crying, they interpret it through their experience. They think crying means sad, or hurt, or manipulative. They don't understand that you're drowning in currents they can't even see, and you can't explain it. Because explaining would require them to step in the river, to feel what you're feeling, to process at the depth you're processing. And they won't do that. They can't do that. They don't even know the river exists. So you're alone in it, crying, while they stand on shore thinking you're overreacting. Okay, let me show you this in a movie. Because sometimes it's easier to see this stuff when it's happening to someone else. You know? When it's a story instead of your own life. Inside Out. You've seen it, right? Pixar, the one with joy and sadness and the girl's emotions as characters. Now kids watch that movie and they think it's fun, colorful, the emotions are cute, there's a funny imaginary friend. It's a nice story about a girl who moves to a new city and feels sad, but then feels better, sweet, done. But if you watch that movie as an adult, really watched it, it hits completely different. Because Pixar does this thing. They make movies that work on two levels. Kids see the surface, the colors, the jokes, the adventure. But adults, we see what's actually happening underneath. And it destroys us. There's a moment in Inside Out that I need to talk about. And if you've seen it, you know exactly which moment I mean. Riley, the 11-year-old girl, her family just moved. Everything she knew is gone. Her friends, her hockey team, her house, her whole life. And inside her mind, Joy is trying desperately to keep her happy, to keep the sadness away, to make everything okay. But it's not okay. And Joy can't fix it by herself. There's this scene where Riley is sitting at the dinner table with her parents. They're trying to talk about the day, trying to connect. And Joy is at the control panel in Riley's mind, forcing a smile, trying to make Riley act normal, act happy. But sadness keeps trying to touch the controls, keeps trying to be felt, and Joy won't let her, because Joy thinks sadness will ruin everything. Joy thinks if sadness touches anything, it will turn it blue, make it painful, break something that can't be fixed. So Joy pushes sadness away, again and again, trying to maintain control, trying to keep Riley happy, and it nearly destroys Riley. Because here's what the movie understands, what kids don't see but adults feel in their bones. Emotions aren't supposed to be separated. Joy and sadness aren't opposites that need to be kept apart. They're partners. They work together. The happiest memories, the ones that matter most, they're not pure joy. They're joy mixed with sadness. The childhood home you can't return to. The friend who moved away. The perfect day that you knew, even while you were in it, would end. You can't actually feel deep joy about something unless you also feel the grief of losing it. Unless you feel its impermanence, its fragility. Kids watching Inside Out see a girl who's sad about moving and then feels better. Sweet. Adults watching Inside Out see themselves. See every time they tried to dam the river. Every time they pushed down the sadness, the anger, the fear. Thinking that staying positive meant staying strong. Every time they forced a smile when they were drowning inside. And we see what happens when you do that. When you try to process only one emotion. When you refuse to let sadness touch the controls. Riley shuts down. She goes numb. She stops feeling anything. She decides to run away. Because feeling nothing seems better than feeling everything. That's what happens when you dam the river. And there's this other moment. The one that makes adults cry, even though kids just think it's a little sad. Riley has an imaginary friend, Bing Bong. He's been with her since she was little. Goofy, loving, made of cotton candy and childhood and all the things she's outgrowing. And Bing Bong helps joy and sadness try to get back to headquarters. He's trying to save Riley even though he knows somewhere that Riley doesn't need him anymore, that she's moving on, that he's fading. There's this pit, memory dump, where memories go to be forgotten forever. And Joy and Bing Bong fall in. And they're trying to get out, but the rocket wagon they're using isn't strong enough to carry both of them. And Bing Bong realizes this. You can see it on his face. He knows what he has to do. He jumps out, makes himself heavier than Joy, sacrifices himself so Joy can make it, so Riley can feel joy again. And as he's fading, disappearing into nothing, forgotten forever, he says, "Take her to the moon for me." Kids see a character disappearing. A little sad, but okay, the main characters are safe. Adults see every version of themselves they had to leave behind to grow up. Every imaginary friend they forgot. Every dream they abandoned. Every part of themselves that sacrificed itself so they could keep going. Every bing bong that faded so we could survive. And we feel it. The grief of necessary loss. The beauty of sacrifice. The unbearable truth that growing up means leaving things behind. That becoming who you are requires forgetting who you were. Joy and sadness, together, inseparable, one thing. And if you cried watching that scene, if you felt the weight of it in a way kids don't, it's because you're not watching a cartoon. You're stepping in the river. You're feeling all of it at once. The love and the loss, the gratitude and the grief, the beauty of what Bing Bong did and the tragedy of what it cost. This is what Pixar does. They make movies that let kids see water and adults see the river. And if you're someone who cries at Pixar movies, it's not because you're overly emotional. It's because you're seeing what's actually there. The depth, the complexity, the truth underneath the surface. So when you're in that argument and you start crying, this is what's happening. You're processing like an adult watching Inside Out. You're seeing all the layers, all the currents, past and present and future. What's being said and what it means and what it will cost. The person you're arguing with, they're watching like a kid. Surface level. This disagreement, these facts, this moment, that's it. And when you cry, they think you're overreacting because they're not seeing what you're seeing. They're not in the river. They don't know the river exists, but you can't explain it to them. Just like you can't explain to a kid why Bing Bong's sacrifice destroys you. They haven't lived enough to understand. They haven't stepped in enough rivers to know what drowning feels like. So you're alone in it. Now let me tell you what's happening in your body when this occurs. Because understanding the mechanism helps you see that this isn't a failure. It's actually a design feature. When you're in that argument, your nervous system goes into this state. Scientists call it hyperarousal. Your heart's racing, muscles tight. You're breathing fast, shallow. Adrenaline everywhere. That's the fight response, right? Your body getting ready to defend yourself, to stand your ground, to fight for truth. But here's the thing about the fight response. It has a limit, a threshold. Your nervous system can only sustain that level of activation for so long before it becomes dangerous, before you overheat, before the stress starts to damage you. So your body has a fail-safe, an emergency cool-down system. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And when your fight response reaches critical levels, when you're running too hot for too long, your parasympathetic system kicks in, automatically, without asking your permission. It releases acetylcholine, slows your heart, deepens your breathing, forces your body to cool down before you burn out. And the visible side effect of this cool down is tears. You're not crying because you're sad. You're crying because your body is literally trying to save you from yourself. You've been running at maximum capacity, maximum intensity, and your system is forcing a release before you overheat and shut down completely. The tears are a circuit breaker, proof that you were running so hot, caring so deeply, fighting so hard that your body had to intervene. And here's what's beautiful and terrible about this. The person you're arguing with doesn't see it that way. They see tears and think weakness, think manipulation, think you're being dramatic. But you're not being dramatic. You're being human. You're experiencing the natural consequence of caring too much, of feeling too deeply, of refusing to stay on the shore while the river rages. Let me show you this from another angle. Different movie, different kind of story, but it shows the same thing. Arrival. You know that one? Amy Adams. Aliens. Learning their language. Okay, so the whole movie is about communication, right? These aliens arrive and Amy Adams plays this linguist, Louise, who's trying to figure out how to talk to them, how to understand them. And as she learns their language, something strange starts happening. She starts having these flashes, images, a daughter, a little girl, beautiful moments, reading together, playing, laughing, just ordinary, precious life. And then she sees the daughter sick, dying young. She sees herself holding this child as the life drains away. She sees grief that shatters her completely. She thinks these are memories at first, trauma from her past. But slowly she realizes these aren't memories, they're the future. She's seeing what will happen if she chooses to have this child. Because the alien language doesn't work the way human language does. It doesn't move from past to present to future in a line. It exists all at once. And learning to think in their language means learning to perceive time that way, non-linearly, simultaneously. Louise sees her daughter's birth and her daughter's death in the same moment. The joy and the grief, the love and the loss, all at once, not sequentially, not first happiness, then sadness, but both, together, inseparable. And here's the moment that breaks everyone who watches this film. Louise chooses to have the daughter anyway. She sees the future. She sees the cancer. She sees the death that's coming. She sees the grief that will destroy her. And she says yes. Yes to the love even though it contains the loss. Yes to the joy even though it's inseparable from the pain. Yes to stepping into a river she knows will drown her. Because she's learned something that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. She's learned that you can't separate the beautiful from the terrible. That love and loss are not two different things that happen in sequence. They're the same thing, one current, one river. And if you refuse the loss, you refuse the love. If you won't feel the pain, you can't feel the joy. They come together or they don't come at all. This is what's happening when you cry in arguments. You're not just processing the current moment. You're processing time non-linearly, like Louise. You're feeling the past every time you weren't heard, the present, this person not believing you, and the future, what it means if truth doesn't matter, all at once. Most people process time sequentially. This happened, then this, then this. They stay in the present moment. They argue about the facts in front of them. But you can't do that. You're experiencing all of it simultaneously. The weight of history and the fear of future collapse and the injustice of right now, all flowing together, all pressing on you at once. And your body can't contain that, so it releases through tears. You're crying because you're perceiving the river while they're seeing water. And the river is too much. It always is. So here's the question that matters. If this is how your nervous system works, if you're built to feel everything simultaneously, if you can't help but step in the river while others stay on shore, what do you do with that? And I need to be honest with you. I can't give you a technique to stop crying. I can't give you 5 steps to emotional control. Because that would be telling you to build a dam, to install the barriers, to become the person who processes sequentially instead of simultaneously. And I won't tell you to do that, because what you're doing, what your body is doing, isn't wrong. But I can tell you this, your tears during arguments aren't happening because you're losing. They're happening because you care more than your system can contain. Because you're processing more reality, more truth, more complexity than most people allow themselves to feel. The person standing calmly on the other side of the argument isn't stronger than you. They're not more in control. They're just not in the river. They're processing one channel, one current, present moment, surface level. You're in the river, multiple currents, past, present, future, self, other, truth, relationship, all at once. And yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, it makes you cry. Yes, it makes you look weak to people who can't see what you're carrying. But it also means you're feeling accurately. You're perceiving the full weight of what's actually at stake in that moment. The full complexity, the full truth. And that perception, that refusal to simplify, that insistence on feeling everything, even when it drowns you, that's not weakness. That's a form of courage that most people will never understand, because it's easy to stay on shore. It's easy to process one thing at a time. It's easy to stay calm when you're not letting yourself feel the depth. What's hard is stepping into the river, knowing you'll be overwhelmed. What's hard is feeling everything when you could choose to feel less. What's hard is crying in front of someone who will see it as weakness when you know it's the opposite. Riley and Inside Out had to learn that you can't push sadness away, that joy and sadness work together, that trying to feel only happiness will shut you down completely, that the river has to flow or it will flood. Louise in Arrival had to learn that you can't separate love from loss, that seeing the future doesn't mean you can avoid the pain, that choosing to feel fully means choosing to grieve fully, that the river contains everything or it contains nothing. You, in your argument, crying while you speak truth, you're learning the same thing. You're learning that you can't dam the river, that you can't process sequentially when your nervous system works simultaneously, that you can't stay on shore when you're built to step in. So here's what I want you to do next time you're in that argument and you feel the tears coming. Don't apologize. Don't say, "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm crying." Don't laugh it off. Don't make it smaller than it is. Instead, if you can, if you have the strength in that moment, say this: "I'm crying because I care about this more than I can contain." That's it. That's the truth. You don't have to explain the rivers. You don't have to make them understand. You don't have to justify why you're feeling what you're feeling. Just name it. I care more than I can contain. This matters more than my system can process without overflow. And if they still see that as weakness, if they still dismiss you, if they still think tears mean you're wrong, that tells you something important about them. It tells you they've never stepped in a river. They've only ever felt water, and they don't know the difference. But you do. You know what it means to feel everything, to process simultaneously, to carry the weight of past and future while standing in the present. And yes, it makes you cry. Yes, it makes you look weak to people who don't understand. But it also makes you real. It makes you honest. It makes you someone who refuses to simplify what's complex, who refuses to stay on shore when there's a river to step into. You're not crying for no reason. You're crying because you're carrying more reality than most people allow themselves to feel, because you're perceiving depths they refuse to acknowledge, because you're in the river while they're safely on shore. And yes, the river is overwhelming. Yes, it makes you cry. Yes, it makes life harder than it needs to be. But it also makes you real. It makes you honest. It makes you someone who hasn't learned to look away from truth just because truth is heavy. Heraclitus was right. You can't step in the same river twice. But some of us can't help but keep stepping in, again and again, even when we know it will flood us, even when we know we'll cry, even when we know people will see it and call us weak. We step in anyway, because the alternative is staying on shore, and staying on shore means never feeling the current, never knowing the depth, never touching the truth of what's actually there. So step in, feel everything, let it overflow, cry during your arguments, cry when you're right, cry when you care too much to contain it, and know that every tear is proof that you're still in the river, still feeling fully, still refusing to look away. Kids watch Inside Out and see a happy ending. Adults watch it and cry because they know what Riley had to lose to get there, what she had to leave behind, what parts of herself had to fade like bing bong so she could grow up. Kids hear about Arrival and think it's a nice love story. Adults watch it and break because they understand what Louise chose, what it costs to love something you know you'll lose, what it means to say yes to the river. You, in your life, in your arguments, in your moments of overflow, you're making the same choice. You're saying yes to feeling fully even when it drowns you. You're stepping in even when you know the current will sweep you away. That's not weakness. That's what it looks like to be fully human, to feel completely, to refuse the protection of distance. The river doesn't apologize for flooding. Neither should you.